FIRE is clearly a movement, but is it a cult? Does financial independence, retire early, go too far? Certainly some think it's extreme, but are they right? Or is there actually something more to FIRE? Is it more useful and approachable than most people actually think? That's what I'm seeking to answer and clear up today. Now, full disclosure, I do personally consider myself on the beginning of my FIRE journey, roughly a year or so into it. So inherent bias here is really hard to set aside completely, but I do think you're gonna appreciate my sort of analytical approach to this question. By the way, my name is Frankie via lovely, although kind of dark, Seattle, Washington. Welcome back to the Money Resolution. Stick around until the end because, well, I do always try to stick the landing and end strong with final thoughts. But today I'm also gonna do something fun, which is give away more free copies of my audiobook. I gave out 10 recently via a video. I'm gonna do it again today, and I'm actually gonna give out 15 more copies of the recent recording of my second book, Money You Can Hack It, via Audible. No membership required, by the way. It's totally free, and it's not about FIRE. This is just roughly 6 hours of good, healthy financial tips and motivation, written and read by me. Details on how to get your copy for free at the very end. So thank you, Audible, for hooking me up for the codes for the giveaway today. So first off, when cults make the news, it usually falls into the bad news category. You hear about violence, you see the harmful nature of them in documentaries, you might hear about the FBI or ATF breaking up cults, and that's because cults typically promote illegal behavior within them. So as I analyze the FIRE movement through the lens of, is it a cult? It's important that we understand the traits that a cult possesses and what makes it different from a movement. A movement, by the way, is simply any social group defined by its unique religious, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs. With that definition, one can argue political affiliation, religion, or even hobbies that people have could be considered movements. I've seen it defined also as a series of organized activities working towards an objective or an organized effort to promote or attain an end. That sounds about right for FIRE, but the difference between a movement and a cult actually comes down to 4 common traits that cults possess. Now, all 4 of these signs must be present for it to be recognized as a cult, so to speak. Let's put the FIRE movement to the test through the lens of these 4 cult characteristics to determine which apply. Credit where credit is due. This video was inspired by an article over at millennialrevolution.com. I will link their article that I'm referencing here in the description down below. It is a FIRE blog, by the way, so again, full disclosure. Okay, characteristic number 1 of a cult is an ideology at odds with normal society. Cult members believe in non-traditional ideologies that the rest of society disagrees with. Often these ideologies are considered weird or unusual by people outside of the movement. Members of a cult are often taught society is actually lying to them, that only the cult knows the truth. Inherently, an us versus them mentality will emerge, and you better do what the ideology teaches so that you can be protected from the enemy who is constantly spreading lies, they say. Does the FIRE movement do this? Well, the reality is, for people seeking financial independence and early retirement, their ideology is definitely seen as non-traditional. Retiring at or around age 67 is traditional in the US. Most of society would disagree that you can or should aim to retire in your 50s, 40s, or even 30s. Instead, society pushes consumerism. And not just here in the US, by the way. This is normal in most developed countries. People in the FIRE movement, though, live on less and live with less. They inherently understand that happiness doesn't come from spending money or owning things. So there is a little bit of an us versus them mentality when it comes to spending at your means versus living below your means. But it is seen as radical. And FIRE seekers, they do think that overspending or just debt in general is irrational. Okay, so yeah, we can actually check box 1 of 4 here. FIRE ideology is at odds with normal society. But does the FIRE movement check any more cult characteristics? Does it check all 4? Is it a cult? Let's keep going. Characteristic number 2 is that cults have an authoritarian leader. While not necessarily formally elected, most cults do have a leader that they worship and follow blindly. This single leader makes the decisions and reinforces the ideals of the group. They have absolute power and are worshipped like a god in many cases. The leader cannot be questioned or challenged. They demand loyalty and may threaten and resort to violence if this authority is questioned. Kind of a funny thing when it comes to the FIRE movement and having a leader. Now, while there's currently zero chance of threats or violence, the FIRE movement does actually have a pseudo-leader. His name is Mr. Money Mustache. His followers actually consider themselves mustachians. They even have this silly salute hand gesture mustache thing. And on his very own website, he still calls himself the leader of this FIRE cult. Right there, right on his homepage. So who is this sort of unofficial leader here? In short, Mr. Money Mustache, he runs a wildly popular blog within the FIRE community, and many people, including myself in past videos, point to one of his articles in particular called The Shockingly Simple Math Behind Early Retirement. This is one of the first articles that actually went viral and really put the FIRE movement on the map. So yeah, most would argue the FIRE movement does have a leader that they look up to and respect. Although it's definitely nothing like what I described regarding absolute power and demanding loyalty. But I will go ahead and say that FIRE is 2 for 4 so far when it comes to exhibiting cult-like characteristics. And now I am starting to seriously reconsider that giant mustache I just got tattooed on my back. I'm just kidding. Okay, characteristic number 3, indoctrination and even brainwashing. A big part of cults is recruitment and initiation, so to speak. It's teaching new members the belief system, which is more like training to believe in that us thinking. Again, during this learning or indoctrination phase, you're not allowed to question the information. You must follow the group and leader blindly. Unfortunately, when it comes to cults, brainwashing is often the tactic that's used, which can happen in sinister and deceptive ways. Think threats of violence, lies, intimidation. All that, unfortunately, is fair game. Millennial Revolution did give a good example here that's a little bit morbid, but proves this point, I think, well. Showing a child how to add is education, but screaming at them to do it or their dog dies is brainwashing. Does the FIRE movement do this? Of course not. Absolutely not. In no way, shape, or form does this happen in the FIRE community. Yes, education is a big part of it. Math is a big part of it when it comes to investing, compound interest, and savings rates. But there is no singular path. In fact, there are infinite paths to financial independence, many ways to seek early retirement. Sharing unique paths and stories is a huge part of the financial independence culture. The community is all about open conversations around money. It encourages and invites questions for sure. I frequently read different stories on Reddit. I follow and read dozens of blogs, and I even enjoy reading contrarian beliefs, the naysayer's opinion, because it feels healthy to internalize all this information and challenge myself from time to time. Here on the channel, I think it's especially important to cite my sources and share screenshots and online calculators to back up the ideas and advice in my videos. And disclaimer here, I'm not a professional, but I'm constantly seeking and learning new information. And that's what I love about running this YouTube channel, is it keeps me honest and constantly researching. Anyway, this one is a resounding no, but there is still one more to go. Will FIRE check 3 of the 4 boxes? Let's find out. Characteristic number 4 is exploitation. And I'm just gonna quote the blog here because it's super well explained. The last and most significant warning sign of a cult is the presence of exploitation. Specifically, every cult exists to exploit their members, either financially, physically, or sometimes sexually. Everything a cult does, presenting the dire worldview, creating a strongman leader, and indoctrinating/brainwashing their members, is meant to persuade them to let themselves be exploited. Cult members will often give up their values, their relationships, and even their own identity when joining a cult. Their finances are usually completely controlled by the cult masters, and they cease to operate as an individual. Say goodbye to whatever money they had going in. Okay, obviously this one is easy. This one is the furthest from any kind of description of people in the financial independence, retire early movement. In fact, I'd argue that description was the exact opposite of it. The whole point of FIRE is to grow your wealth and do it quickly so that you can enjoy a more free life where work becomes optional. It's about getting time back so you can pursue your passions, travel, try new hobbies, spend more time with kids and family, and my personal favorite I've already been enjoying, sleep better at night. And when you think about it, people who have achieved FIRE have zero reason to exploit anyone for money because they have a nest egg and they know that this money is going to last them through retirement. They also understand that you can't take it with you, so you don't need more. Not to mention, FIRE individuals have spent years learning to live happier lives with less. They've gained a better appreciation for the things that don't cost money in life to enjoy. Oh, and they're earning passive income to help sustain them in retirement. It's from investment gains and dividends at a minimum. For others like myself though, I'm writing books, I'm blogging, and I created this YouTube channel as passive income streams. Again, just know on this one, yes, FIRE seekers want money because it's a tool to achieve financial freedom and independence. But no, they don't want yours. And a final thought on this part, FIRE seekers give. They know the importance of giving first, even when you have very little. I don't have any stats necessarily to back this up, but I would venture to guess that they give far more than the average person. All right, final thoughts. In the end, I've actually realized it's definitely a cult. Churro revolution in the finance space. I hope I had you there for a second. This exercise had me a little worried when I finished reading about the second characteristic, but obviously number 3 and number 4 couldn't be further from what the FIRE movement is all about. As with any group of people who go against the grain and think differently than the majority of society, there's going to be backlash and skepticism. There are going to be naysayers. I was absolutely one of them, and I don't mean that I had heard about it in passing and I didn't really have an opinion. I mean, I was totally against it because I was just uneducated about it. I thought all FIRE seekers saved 70% of their income at a minimum. FYI, I now aim to save half, but others save 25 to 40%. I also thought the FIRE movement required being a minimalist, owning practically nothing, and sure, some are, but many aren't. I thought they were missing out on the best years of their lives by not spending any money. I assumed they never traveled. I assumed they were judgy. I assumed they were all in a cult. Wrong, wrong, and wrong. Today's exercise really helped me understand why I personally felt that way, and perhaps it was at least a little bit eye-opening for you as well. And if not, here's a challenge if you're ready to jump straight to the comments and say something negative about the community. Before you write your comment, read at least 10 others, if I have that many. I bet they're all positive and encouraging. They're personal, they're open, they're honest. They're the opposite of judgy or stuffy. They're very human. Humans just wanting more out of life. And do you want to know why? It's because we're not out to change anyone else's mind. We're here for one another, and we genuinely enjoy hearing other people's stories and thoughts because we understand that together, all of us, not just FIRE seekers, are greater than the sum of our parts. Sports teams know this, families know this, teachers know this about their students, governments and religion, no matter where you stand on those, they know that. Packs of wolves know this. Birds of a feather, they say, flock together. That's all the FIRE community is. It's a group of people that think similarly, have similar goals, and are seeking a more rich life. And when I say rich, that has nothing to do with money. So if you're interested in a more rich life, stick around and watch some more videos of mine. But if not, no worries. As always, all views and opinions are welcome here in the comments. I believe in my financial philosophy that I've honed over the last 3.5 years of learning all this from scratch. Learning has given me enough courage to share my story and give honest advice. And by the way, even when we learn math here, your dog is always safe. If you're learning about FIRE, you don't have to go all in. Just take the bits and pieces that work for you in your life and leave and ignore the rest. It's as simple as that. Thank you, and thanks a million to millennialrevolution.com for that fun read. I'll link to that article down below if you want to read the whole thing. And I'll also link to their book, which I think is called Quit Like a Millionaire. I have personally read that one and recommend it. Speaking of books, I didn't forget to get a free copy of the audiobook of Money You Can Hack It. You're going to enter in a raffle at themoneyresolution.com/FREEBIES. free audiobook. I will email the winners on 5/15 with their code to download if you've been chosen. If you don't win, by the way, just keep on watching videos because I'm hoping to get more free codes from Audible in the future. I'll pin the link to the entry form at the top of the comments, and I'll also link it in the description down below. And with that said, I share financial tips and early retirement information for all people twice weekly here on the channel, so consider subscribing for more honest conversations with me about money. My name is Frankie. Like this video if you liked this video, and I'll see you awesome people, I hope, in a few days on the next one. Thanks.